Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars The Black Series action figure review. Today we're taking a look at what could possibly be, in my opinion at least, one of the coolest Black Series figures to ever be released. It is of course Clone Commander Cody from Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, and with 2025 being the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 3, it only seems fitting for Hasbro to release this character in iconic Revenge of the Sith packaging. I've got a lot of love for the original Episode 3 line look that was all over store shelves back in 2005, and to finally see Clone Commander Cody released in this packaging is just an absolute thing of beauty. As we all know, Commander Cody didn't actually see a release during the initial run of Revenge of the Sith figures. It wasn't until 2006 and the Saga collection that Commander Cody was finally released in the 3 3/4 inch line. So, 20 years later to finally see this character released on this iconic looking packaging is just an absolute treat, and I really do have to commend Hasbro on their commemorative packaging efforts. They always nail it out of the park with commemorative packaging when it comes to anniversaries, be it Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, vintage cards, all that sort of stuff. Hasbro always do a great job, and this is no exception. They've captured this look perfectly. To see this packaging upscaled in the Black Series is just such a treat, and I'm thrilled to have this one in the collection. And I'll be honest, I've been at war with myself for the last few days as to whether or not to open up this figure and get a look at what he's all about and ultimately review him for you. I may pick up a second just to keep carded because, like I said, I've got a lot of nostalgia for this line, but we'll see. If you want to pick this one up for your own collection, he is of course available at Star Action Figures, and there's a link down below in the video description where you can pick this figure up. At the time of recording, he is in stock and available to buy, and I'd definitely recommend adding this one to your collection. Whether you're a loose or carded collector, this figure is a must-have. So before we rip him open, let's just take a look at the packaging that he comes in. As you can see, we do have the Revenge of the Sith logo down at the bottom of the card, which looks really nice. You've got the name of the character just off to the side and an image of Commander Cody on the side of the bubble there, receiving Order 66 from Emperor Palpatine. You've got the figure in the bubble there as well, which is curved, and as such is very reflective, so I do apologise about all the glare, but the figure looks really nice placed inside that bubble. Behind him you've got all the lava effects there, with Vader's helmet forming the shape of the card, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan dueling at the top, which is just absolutely stunning. On the back we have an image of the figure, we have a brief description of the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, and another image of the character and the name at the top, as well as the Revenge of the Sith logo once again. So really cool stuff in terms of packaging. Absolutely love this line look, and there's some really cool characters being released in this packaging to commemorate 20 years of Revenge of the Sith. And as such, you'll be able to pick up figures such as Kit Fisto, the 501st Trooper, Count Dooku, and R2-D2, of which I'll probably pick up a couple if and when I see them. So with packaging aside, let's dive into this review. Let's rip open Commander Cody and see what this figure has to offer. So here we have Clone Commander Cody, free of his plastic prison and ready to execute Order 66, and I am absolutely thrilled with how this figure turned out. As I mentioned, I've been indecisive as to whether or not to open this figure, just because the packaging that he comes in is absolutely glorious, but the figure inside is really where it's at, and it's an absolute home run for Hasbro. It's a substantial update over the previously released Commander Cody figure that came out all the way back in 2014, and as such, by today's standards, is starting to look a little bit dated, especially in terms of articulation and proportions and all that sort of stuff. Whereas with this figure, since it's based on the new and improved Clone Trooper sculpt within the Black Series that first made its debut with the Phase 1 Clone Trooper, like I said, this is a perfect release. Really nicely done, really nicely painted, fantastic sculpt, proportions and details, and great accessories to boot. So all in all, a fantastic figure and a great addition to the collection. Now, it's not without its flaws, and we'll touch base on those as we get into this review, because they lie within the sculpt and the paint applications. They're nitpicks for me personally, just because of how I'm choosing to display this figure on my shelf, but for those of you that may be sticklers for screen accuracy, it's probably something that's really going to wind you up, so just be warned. as we get into this review. But no, for the most part, an absolutely superb release. Really, really happy with it. And yeah, in terms of articulation and all that sort of stuff, it's an absolutely solid release. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at all the articulation that Commander Cody has to offer. So of course, being a modern Black Series figure and based on that incredible new Clone Trooper sculpt, the articulation on Clone Commander Cody is really, really good, and you can get a wide variety of poses and a great range of movement out of this figure. First up, as always, we have a ball joint at the head, and as normal, there's a ball joint in the base of the head and the bottom of the neck, which offers up a nice wide range of movement there. It is slightly restricted by the helmet when that's in place, but nothing too major. You can still have him look up, down and all around and get him in all the necessary poses that you need. We also have butterfly joints at the shoulders, which are slightly more restricted in this instance just because the shoulder pads on the armour are slightly larger than your standard Clone Trooper. They are on the loop system and are separately sculpted, but just because of their size it makes the shoulders a little bit more tricky to pose, especially when you try to raise the arms up, just because they catch on the chest armour there. So with a little bit of fiddling and a little bit of playing around, you can still get the figure in all the poses that you need. It's a little bit trickier than your standard figure. We also have a swivel at the bicep and a hinge at the elbow. We also have hinges at the wrist, and with the chest armour being a separately sculpted piece, we have a nice fluid ball joint at the torso, which is not restricted or hindered whatsoever. So really, really good stuff there. We also have ball hinges at the hips with a swivel cut at the upper thigh. We have a hinge at the knee, once again with separately sculpted knee pads, and we also have a hinge and rocker at the ankle as well. So articulation wise, pretty good stuff. Like I said, a little bit trickier to pose than your standard Clone Trooper just because of some of those armour pieces, but for the most part, a really nicely posable and articulated figure. The engineering, once again, is vastly superior to the original Commander Cody that came out over 10 years ago. Now, in terms of accessories, Commander Cody does come, as mentioned, with the little hologram of Darth Sidious for when he receives Order 66, and this is an accessory that I'm absolutely thrilled to see included with the figure. It was a necessity as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really glad that Hasbro decided to include it. It's a nicely sculpted little piece. As you can see, that hologram effect is in play, and even the base of the hologram is sculpted and painted to feature that sort of comlink design, which is really, really cool. I absolutely love this accessory. The figure holds it in his hand really well, which is something that I was a little bit skeptical of just because of the way the hands are sculpted, but as you saw at the start of the review, and we'll see again later on, the figure holds it really, really nicely. Cody also features the DC-15S carbine pistol, which is a standard inclusion with Clone Trooper figures. Nothing really to write home about, not a great deal going on in terms of paint applications, but a nicely sculpted piece nonetheless, and as you can see, the figure holds it in both hands really nicely. And finally, Commander Cody does feature a removable helmet, of which is really nicely sculpted, really nicely painted, and looks absolutely fantastic. What I love about the helmet on this figure is that it seems to have moved past the animated / live action hybrid look that a lot of Phase 2 Clone Trooper helmets have had in the Black Series recently. This is a nice reflection of what we see in Revenge of the Sith. All those sculpted and painted details are there, and it looks absolutely phenomenal and is a really nice snug fit on the figure. Once you remove the helmet, we do have that reused Clone Trooper portrait underneath, which is a really nice sculpt, great likeness, and we of course have the photoreal face printing technology to thank for that. Unfortunately, this is where my one and only issue with the figure lies, and it's once again to do with the paint applications, because as we all know, Clone Commander Cody features a scar on the left side of his face, but for whatever reason Hasbro decided to omit that from this figure, and as such it's not present, which is a bit of a shame. It's not a major issue for me personally, just because I'm going to be displaying this figure with the helmet on, but like I said, if you're a stickler for screen accuracy or you're choosing to display this figure without his helmet, I can certainly understand why that would frustrate you, and especially with the price that we're paying for these Black Series figures. We expect, you know, all the details that we want to be there, and for that to be missing is just an oversight on Hasbro's part, and it's just slightly frustrating. But be that as it may, it's worth pointing out, but not a major concern for me personally. Like I said, once that helmet goes back on, this figure's absolutely perfect. So with regards to the rest of the figure and some of those sculpted and painted details, this figure is really nicely done. As you can see, he's got all the appropriate orange flashes on his armour, indicating that he is a part of the 212th Attack Battalion. It's a really nicely sculpted figure. Like I said, I absolutely love that new and updated Clone Trooper sculpt. The armour, the proportions, everything about it just looks really good. And as I've said in previous reviews, instead of looking like a toy or an action figure, this looks like a guy in a suit, which is what we want from our action figures. We want them to look real. We want them to look like the characters that we see on screen, and this one definitely delivers that. As you can see, you've got these grey aspects to the armour as well around the abdomen. You've got the stripe down the forearm. Nice wear and tear on the armour as well, which is nice to see. I'm always an advocate for weathering, and this figure definitely has it. He doesn't have a wash, which makes the armour overall look dirty and worn down, but he does have these scrapes and dints and dings all over the armour, which looks really good. Nicely applied in terms of the paint. We also have the rank badge there on the chest, the antenna poking off the shoulder pad there. Like I said, all the appropriate sculpted details are there on the helmet, including the flashlight above the brow there and the antenna. Just really good stuff. And what I also like is the fact that this figure features a plug on the belt for Obi-Wan's lightsaber. As you remember from Revenge of the Sith, Cody does find Obi-Wan's lightsaber on the ground and proceeds to hook it onto his belt to return to him later. That's there, but unfortunately no lightsaber hilt was included with the figure, so you're going to have to source that for yourself. Unfortunately, it would have made a little bit more sense to include it with the figure, but I imagine at some point we're going to get a new and updated Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith that will feature a lightsaber hilt, which you can obviously take and borrow and apply to this one. We've got the brass ring around the bicep there as well. Again, great sculpted detail on the rest of the figure. And if we come around the back, you've got the moulded pouches and containers on the belt. The jetpack there, which is not removable, unfortunately. I watched The Forces with Jess's review before cracking this figure open, and noticed that he forcibly removed this and ended up breaking the peg inside. So I'm not going to do that in this review, of course. It is sort of, it's not sculpted in place, but it is glued, so with a little bit of force you can remove it. I just wouldn't recommend it because it will break. But yeah, like I said, great detail on this figure. Really nicely sculpted, great paint applications. I do have to say they're really nice and crisp on this one, and they look really good. I'm just absolutely thrilled with how this figure came out, and really happy to finally have a new and improved Commander Cody in the Black Series collection, and I really hope that this is a sign of things to come with Clone Commanders going forward. I'd love to see more in the Black Series line. So that concludes this review on Clone Commander Cody from Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Once again, an absolutely fantastic release, a great addition to the Black Series line, and a superb update on a previously released figure. Whether you're a loose or carded collector, this figure is going to tick a box for you. If you're looking to expand your Clone Trooper ranks or add a new character to your prequel Black Series display, this figure has it all. Great accessories, great articulation, superb painted and sculpted details, and if you're a carded collector, there's no better way to celebrate 20 years of Revenge of the Sith than with that iconic Episode 3 packaging. To see it upscaled in the Black Series is an absolute treat, and this figure is an overall joy, and I'm thrilled to have it in the collection. So if you'd like to purchase this one for yourself, once again be sure to hit the link down below in the video description, and I'll be back to review many more Black Series figures in the near future. Until then, as always, thank you for watching, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.